MovieWeb.com.
Hi, we're the Websos from 2 doors down.
I am Rifat Maroon, and this is my daughter, Jazeera.
Okay, Jazra.
It's Jazeera.
Next.
You okay? Ay, madre de Dios.
No habla español.
Your parents don't speak Spanish at home? Ay, ay, ay.
Can't I pick them out?
This is the kind my daughter likes.
What's wrong with these?
They're thicker, not as comfortable.
Right, but those are twice as expensive.
Well, that's probably the comfort issue I was referring to earlier.
How difficult was it for you to channel your inner 13-year-old since you weren't that far removed from that age when you started this project?
Right. I was 18, you know, which at that time, you know, it's not that many years. It's 5 years, right? Yeah. But it's a lifetime, really.
I was going to say, yeah, it seems like a lifetime, doesn't it?
Yeah, it is a lifetime. You know, 13 was a pretty poignant year for myself, so I remember it vividly. But I was very different than Jazeera's 13. You know, she was more like my 10 or 11. You know, so I had to, you know, bring myself back to that point to make it believable for me. As a reader, of course, it was wonderful and believable, but grounded for me as an actress, I had to think back way younger to play her. And I changed my body posture. You know, I made it that she was self-conscious of her new breasts and, you know, body hair, and she would hide her arms because she had hair, and she'd slouch because of her breasts, and I made the choice that she really just thought she was ugly because the kids at school made fun of her because of her hair at the pool, and, you know, all of these things, and the attention that Mr. Vuoso gave her was like this flicker of excitement, like maybe I'm not ugly, you know.
Well, did you read the book in 2005 when it came out? Because
No.
I'm wondering how young you were, or if you think when you were 13 you would have been able to connect with this material.
They would have served me.
Yeah.
I can tell you that. You know, it would have been nice to have had this movie come out when I was like 15 or 16 or 13. Definitely. I'm one of those people that thinks film does have influence, you know, and can, you know, send a message to people. Some people are like, oh, it's just a movie, but I'm one of those people that thinks, you know, it can be more than a movie. But I didn't read the novel until my second audition. I actually read the script without knowing it was a novel, and I'm like, how did a man write this? And then I found out that it was a novel, and it's incredibly true to the novel, the film.
Well, was it important for you to have Alicia's input on the film, like going into it?
I didn't have Alicia's input. You know, I was very concerned that she wouldn't like me or that it wouldn't be believable. And I remember the one day that she came to set and I met her, I was just incredibly nervous that she wasn't going to think that I was Jazeera. But she approved, so.
Well, did she come see you halfway through shooting and approve of what you were doing?
Right,
or,
yeah.
like, did she know who you were before things got rolling?
I'm sure she had seen a picture or something before. We didn't meet till halfway through filming. She didn't live in LA, so that was sort of difficult. Yeah, I didn't talk to her about the role before I filmed.
For some of the more sexually suggestive scenes, how important was it for you, for the director, to keep the camera on your face as opposed to exposing entire body parts? I heard he talked about that was important for him to choreograph those scenes like that.
Yeah, and I think it was, and I got that feeling. It really translated to me that this was not about the body parts. This was not about the act. This was about what the act does to these characters. And it translated to me when I read it, and it translated to me on the day of shooting. You know, and Aaron Eckhart and Alan were extremely guiding, you know, through the process. They really guided me through and let me know what was going to happen. And, you know, we're so professional. I couldn't have felt more comfortable in one of those kind of uncomfortable situations. I don't know too much about camera works and stuff, and I kind of stay out of that. But I knew that, you know, no body parts were going to be showing, and that was something I was happy about.
Well, it seemed like the most important scene, I guess, when I was watching it for me was when your love interest, the kid, the other 13-year-old kid, says, that was my blood, but you said, no, that was my blood.
Right.
And I'm wondering what you sort of took away from that scene yourself when you first read that in the script.
You know, when I first read that in the script, obviously I wasn't thinking so analytically about everything. I wasn't dissecting everything, and I was just 18. I was 17 when I read it, you know, so I got some of the themes, and it impacted me some places, but now as a 20-year-old, You know, I can look at it like that as what it was. And even then when I was filming it, you know, I understood those themes. But I didn't want to think about it too analytically because this young girl wasn't. And if I got too heady about it, you know, I'd be an 18-year-old playing a 13-year-old, and I didn't want to be that. I wanted to be this 13-year-old in this situation.
You know what you're doing. You know what you do to men.
If anything ever happened to you, I'd never forgive myself.
Nothing will happen to me. Mommy!
This whole thing is your fault.
Do you feel like a woman?
Uh-huh.
I feel like a man.
Would you describe your situation as light, medium, or heavy?